All right, Boker Tov. So today's daf is Tet Zayin, and we pick up at the top of Tet Zayin Amud Aleph, and we have just read the Mishnah over the second parak, and the Mishnah told us that a case where they're debating not why was it that he wasn't a virgin on the wedding night, but why was it? But 20 years later, she's getting a divorce, and there's no ksuva, and whether actually it was a first wedding or a second wedding. And that's what they're debating, what happens during the wedding. Again, not what her physical state was the wedding night, but had it been a first wedding or a second wedding. And there the Gemara says that in that case, you need witnesses to testify to the sort of indicators that it was a first wedding. Talks about how she left her father's home and with the whole big major production, or whether they handed out this roasted grain or other types of things that would be an indicator for whether it was a first wedding or a second wedding, whether 300 people invited to the ceremony, etc. Anyway, so without that indicator, though, she would not be believed, because basically the principle of hamotzi mechaver lafaraya. But the Gemara now wants to understand, how does that fit in with the debate of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua? Let's take a look. Taima, says the Gemara, 3 lines from the top in Tet Zayin Amud Aleph, the reason that she would win this case is the Ika Adim. Only if there are witnesses that show that it was a first wedding. Haleka Adim, without the presence of witnesses, Baal Mehemen, the husband would be believed. So Lamet's non-stamad lo Rabbi Gamliel. Let's say that's not going like Rabbi Gamliel, because you remember Rabbi Gamliel normally says she believes, which is really asking us to remember, why does Rabbi Gamliel say that she's believed, right? Why don't we apply the normal principle of hamotzi mechaver lafaraya? So let's see what the Gemara tells us. So the Gemara says, Di Rabbi Gamliel hamar I mehem. Now he says she's believed. So the Gemara says, Afilu te Rabbi Gamliel, could even be Rabbi Gamliel. Ad kan lo Rabbi Gamliel hasam ela bebari v'shema. One of the reasons that Rabbi Gamliel believed her, presumably the most significant reason, although the Gemara said it doesn't mean he would say every Bari and Shema. The Gemara gave, as we'll see in a minute, some things that also strengthen her case. But it started with the fact that she's making a definite claim. She knows why her physical state was that of not being a virgin, and he doesn't. So her Bari was believed over his Shema. Lo, but here, each one is saying that they know absolutely. She's saying, I know it was a first wedding. He says, what are you talking about? That was a second wedding. You had been married before. So each one is making a definite claim. We don't know who's telling the truth, but each one is making a definite claim. Okay, wait, let's get a little further. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. So the Gemara says, I can lo el Shema, bari lo amar. So the Gemara says, "It's kari le my kari le." So here's a question we would like to ask a lot of times. So what was it? What were you thinking in the first place? Obviously, there's that difference, right? Obviously, here they're both making a definite claim, and in the previous case, it was a bari and a shema. Clearly, that's a difference. The Gemara says, "My kari le." So habar you bari you. This is clearly each one making a definite claim, and it's your classic hamotzi mechaver lafaraya. So the Gemara says, "Habar you." No, Kivin derov nashim b'sulos nisos. Since most of the weddings are first weddings, Baruch Hashem, I mean, hasn't got that bad that most of the time, although they also this statistic, right, like that they're 50% of marriages end in divorce or something like that. No, but besides that, I think that statistic is misleading. I think what it means is that like 50% of the weddings that take place are second, like might be second marriages or something, but like it could often be like, or not. What it means is like this, like some people get divorced a lot of times. So therefore, 50% of the marriages end in divorce. Don't mean 50% of the people who get married, of the unique people who get married, get divorced. Anyway, but okay, Baruch Hashem, we've got a case of what do you call that? Most of the time, it's a first marriage. So Kiman derov nashim b'sulos nisos. Most women that get married, it's a first marriage. So keep, literally virgin, but here the emphasis being first marriage. Kibari v'shemadami. The claim that no, it was a second marriage is a weaker claim. It's not a bari in terms of the time. That's a bari taina, but in terms of its believability, he's on slightly weaker footing than she is. So I might have thought that, right? And I might have thought, therefore, that Rabbi Gamliel would still believe her in this case, even though they're both bari. Okay, but
why not? That doesn't make sense. So I don't.
Okay, because it's still it's still. I mean, the Gemara is going to get to it later. If you say, would you go by a rove to be motzi mamon? The normal principle is ein hochin b'mamon acharov. Just because it's like 70% likely she's telling the truth, that's not going to be enough. I mean, if she's making a definite claim and he's saying definitely no, so you need some real evidence in that case. Okay, so let's say, but the Gemara will deal with it a little bit later. All this ties into the question of hochin b'mamon acharov. So the the Gemara says like this. That makes sense that Rabbi Gamliel is basically conceding this point, and he's conceding this point because it's bari bari, even though you might have wanted to call it a type of a bari v'shema. He's saying, this case I will concede that even though you might want to argue, I would argue this case and call it a bari v'shema. No, this case is a bari bari. This case I'm going to concede that she's not going to win. So hachinami mistaver, that Rabbi Gamliel is like conceding this case. Midiktani, the end of the Mishnah says, Umar Rabbi Yoshua, that Rabbi Yoshua concedes in a case where a guy says this field was your father's and I bought it from him. Right? Rabbi Yoshua normally says that we don't believe the guy's taina, and here it says that we will, because here it's peshas or peshahitir. It's more drastic, as the Gemara will get to. So here Rabbi Yoshua says we do believe the guy. So therefore the Gemara says like this. If Rabbi Gamliel concedes his point, he says, normally I say that we believe the woman, and here I'm going to concede that we don't believe the woman. I'm not going to call it a bari neshema. So shapir, then it's good. Then Rabbi Yoshua will say, well, normally I believe the guy who's originally in possession of the money, and here I'm going to believe the guy who got the field from him. So I'll concede this point. You concede that point. I'll concede this point. Everybody is giving in a little. Okay, so fine. That makes sense. So then there's a structure to the Mishnah. Like a logical structure. But Rabbi Gamliel isn't conceding his point. Meaning, if the Mishnah here is not Rabbi Gamliel, if the Mishnah here is basically Rabbi Yoshua, and that's why you need witnesses, that fundamentally Rabbi Gamliel would disagree with this Mishnah. Maybe Rabbi Gamliel would believe her. So this whole Mishnah is Rabbi Yoshua. So if you think this whole Mishnah is Rabbi Yoshua, so Rabbi Yoshua Laman Moda. What makes sense? How does it make sense? Say, Rabbi Yoshua concedes the following case. The whole Mishnah was Rabbi Yoshua. So it makes more sense. All right, I know. The Gemara will say. So it makes more sense to understand that the beginning of the Mishnah is a case of Rabbi Gamliel conceding that she does not win because it's a bari and bari. And then we have a case where Rabbi Yoshua would concede that the guy who's coming to take the property away would win because it's a pesha asar. Okay. So the Gemara says like this. Mi savris. So now it says, I think, what Michael was trying to say. Rabbi Yoshua ahai pirkakai. Who says Rabbi Yoshua is conceding to a Rabbi Gamliel in the beginning of the Mishnah? You want to read the Mishnah. The Rabbi Gamliel concedes this point because it's bari and bari. Rabbi Yoshua concedes a different point of a pesha asar. What makes you think that Moda Rabbi Yoshua is going on the Tanakama of this Mishnah? Okay, and since you Rabbi Gamliel conceded, I'm going to concede another point. So a high pirkin kai. No, amigu kai, a pirkin kamakai. He's going back to an earlier statement from the previous parak about migo, and he's saying, you Rabbi Gamliel, and now we're going to introduce a new factor. Why does Rabbi Gamliel believe the woman? So we've been saying it's bari and shema. That's certainly been the strength of it. But you might remember before that the Gemara also said that in some cases there's a migo. What per case in particular is there's going to be a migo? The first case. The Gemara is going to work its way backward through all the Mishnayot to get to the first case, because the first case there was a migo. The first case, she said that I was raped after the kiddushin, and he said, no, you had basically, you had consensual sex. So there, she could have made a stronger claim. Her claim could have been, I was like a mukaseit or something. Saying she was raped will invalidate her for a kohen. If this marriage ever ends and then she wants to marry a kohen, it'll invalidate her. So there was a migo. And Rabbi Yoshua was not impressed by that migo. As Rashi says, one reason not to be impressed by the migo is maybe somebody is smart and knows how to work the system, right? So somebody figures, if I say, as Mukaseit, I won't win. I'll say I was raped, and therefore at least I'm going to win this case. So Rabbi Yoshua wasn't impressed by that migo, but he is impressed by our case of a pesha asar. A guy who just walks off the street and says, this field, by the way, you should know that I've been on for the last few years. This field originally was your father's and I bought it from him. That's stronger than a migo. That's like a pesha asar. He's introducing the whole case to begin with. So therefore, obviously, he's going to be believed. So what the Gemara is saying is, Rabbi Yoshua, when it says he concedes, doesn't have to concede in parallel to a Rabbi Gamliel point in the beginning of our Mishnah. Rabbi Gamliel would concede that this is a bari, and therefore he's going to say that she doesn't win. Okay, I'll concede a pesha asar case. No, this whole Mishnah might not be Rabbi Gamliel. It might might all be Rabbi Yoshua. But what Rabbi Yoshua is saying is, by the way, the fact that earlier, the past Perek, I rejected the argument of Migo, I will concede a case where it's stronger than just a Migo. I'll concede a case where it's a Pesha Asar. Okay, so he might not be referring to a concession of Rabbi Gamliel at the beginning of this Mishnah. He might be going back to a debate that they had in the previous Perek.
What does the man say in this case when she's claiming the Ketubah, Pesha Asar, or Pesha Yitir?
No, there's not Pesha Asar in the Ketubah case. The Pesha Asar is in the end of the Mishnah where he says, I bought this field from your father. And then the other guy says, I didn't know what you're talking about. So that's obviously, he's introducing the whole case from scratch. We'll get in a minute to what Tosa says about that. But Rashi says it's much stronger because he isn't even being like, sued or anything. He isn't being, nobody's coming to him with a taina, right? He's just introducing the whole case. By the way, this field, what he once was your father's, I bought it from him. So of course, Rabbi says, in that case, I'll concede. That's much stronger than Amigo. Yes.
Are you sure it doesn't hold by the concept of Amigo at all, ever?
Well, he might. But there are different degrees of migo. So first of all, one thing is called a migo lahotzi, which is our case, which is a migo to take out money, to extract money. And the same way, like for example, you don't go rov, you might need a higher threshold, when we say hamotzi mecha ve'olav haraya than just a migo. That's number one. Number two is that it's one thing to have a migo that if I would have made this other claim, I definitely would have won. So you should believe me by this claim, right? That's different than just, I could have made a claim that would have been better, but it wouldn't necessarily have made me win. Meaning, for example, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example, but let's say, you say that object is, this object I'm holding on to, you say it's yours. So if I were to say, I never bought it from you, let's just imagine, I'm not going to go into the specific halacha. Let's say you say this coffee cup here, you say it's yours. I said, if I would have said I never bought it from you, I would have been believed. Okay, but if I said I bought it from you under certain circumstances, that claim by itself wouldn't be believed. But maybe if I say I bought it from you in those circumstances, you should believe me, because if I would have said I never bought it from you, then I totally would have won the case. That's when my alternate claim would have clearly won the case. And therefore you should believe me when I make a different one, because I always could have made the claim that would have won the case. The migo that we're talking about is not a migo that by itself would have won the case, right? If the woman would have said that it was mukas eitz as opposed to a rape, that wouldn't have necessarily won the case. You'll say it's not mukas eitz. So amigo that would have been a better claim, but not a claim that would have won, is different than amigo when I could have said a claim that definitely would have won. So it's a good question. Why does Rabbi Yoshua reject migo? So two things to acknowledge about these cases. Number one, it's amigo lahotzi. That's amigo that's trying to use as a basis of taking money away from somebody, which normally there's a higher threshold. And number two, it's amigo where the other claim wouldn't have on its own won. It might have been a better claim, but it wouldn't have won. Okay, normally, if the migo were won, that's a different story. And maybe Rabbi Yoshua does totally reject migo. The way Rashi makes it sound is, unless it's a pesha asar, unless the guy is introducing the whole scenario on his own, then. But if he's being like sued and challenged, then any response maybe he just says, then whatever. I just don't believe migo. Then you're just trying to work the system. Okay, so it could be he completely rejects it, but there could be specific reasons that make this migo weaker. It's trying to take out money, and the other claim wouldn't have won on its own. Okay, so now let's take a look. So that's what he's conceding. He's not conceding to a concession Rabbi Gamliel said in the beginning of the Mishnah, that Rabbi Gamliel says, I'll concede by Bari and Bari. And he says, I'll concede by Pesha Asar. No, maybe the whole beginning of the Mishnah is Rabbi Yoshua. But Rabbi Yoshua is saying, by the way, the debate we had last Perek where I rejected migo? I'll concede in a case when it's better than a migo, when it's a case when it's a pesha asar. Okay, so amigo kai, vapirkin kama kai, and he's going on the earlier parak. So ahai, which case in the earlier parak was a migo that he rejected? Ile maha, the following. Now we're going to work back through the Mishnayot from the last back to the earliest, and it's going to be interesting because this is we had to wait to the second parak to see this, but now the Gemara is going to conceptualize the issues in the different Mishnayot and tell us which ones are bigger chiddush than the others. So let's take a look. Haisamu beres the amrula mati v'shalu bazeh. So she was pregnant. What's the status of this baby? Oh, I had sex with this man, but he's okay. He's a Kohen. She's believed. Nope, we don't live based on her say so, right? No, just me pia as opposed to pesha. So pesha. Here, we're not going to live by what she said. Hasam. So what migo is there? My migo ika. Hare Kresa ben Gina, what migo is there? Her stomach is between her teeth. So obviously she had sex with some guy. So what else is she supposed to claim? She's claiming the best thing she could claim. Oh yeah, you all know I had sex, and I'm going to say the guy was a totally good guy. So there's no migo, there's no better claim she could make. Ella, aha, fine, this case. So if they start speaking to a guy, they said, hey, what was the story with that guy you were talking to or maybe slept with? So he says, each ploni v'kohen to Ava. Yeah, it was I slept with him, but he was a good guy. He was a Kohen. And when we have Rabbi Eliezer, I mean, in a minute, she's believed. Rabbi Yeshua Lo mi b'yano chai. We don't believe her. So Hassa, my migo ego. What else could she have claimed? Hani is Iri. It's actually, according to Ziri, she could have had an alternate claim. According to Ziri, all it meant is that she went into seclusion with the guy. So Migo di by Amra lo nivalti, she could have said, I never had sex with him. That definitely would have been a better claim. Better claim in terms of your own sort of standing in the community to say you didn't have sex with him. And better claim because presumably you would be believed. How is anybody supposed to know you had sex? So if you said you wouldn't have had sex, you would have totally been believed. That would have been a better claim. The Kamer. No, the second case, the case of Midaberet. Okay, the Kama Nivalti, and she says she had sex. So she would be believed. That would be a migo. And if Ziri doesn't even, so that, I mean, and that would make sense. So Rabbi Yeshua is saying, that migo I don't accept. Like she could have said she had sex, but she concedes that, she could have said she didn't have sex, she concedes she did. I'm not going to accept that migo. Peshas I'll accept, but that's a migo I won't accept. Okay, that's a big chiddush. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, Ella Ravasi, Damar Maim the Beres Niv Elas, but when Ravasi, that means that she actually had sex, and that isn't debated. We all know she had sex. So my migo ika. So she, what else? So everybody knows she had sex. So she's saying the guy was a good guy. There's no migo. There's no better claim. So far, those two cases, if both of them are that we know she had sex, there was no migo. So it's no chiddush for Rabbi Yoshua to say, I don't believe her. However, if one of the cases was we don't know she had sex, and she conceded that she did, that's a chiddush. Rabbi Yoshua says, I won't believe her, even though she could have said she didn't have sex, but I will believe in a total case of Pesha Asar. Okay, so that would be one way to frame it, but that's only if you assume that one of those cases was that we don't know that she had sex.
Well, I don't understand why these two cases are not or cannot be framed as
Pesha Asar. Well, that's going to be, well, first of all, we have to get a migo.
She's not. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is why is the case when she concedes that she had sex when we don't know that she did? Why isn't that Pesha Asar? No, so the Gemara is going to get to it. How is migo different?
Is it because they brought a time against her?
Okay. Yes. So we're going to get to it. But the question is going to be why is migo different than Pesha Asar? But first we have to establish that there's a migo. So the first thing we're saying is there is no migo in those cases. We know she had sex. What else is she supposed to say? So if she could have said she didn't have sex, she has a migo. But that's not necessarily the case. All right. So let's keep on going. She says, yes, I wasn't a virgin, but that's because I had some injury. And he says, no, because you had sex. She's believed. No, she's not believed. So, how's the migo iko? What else could she have claimed other than that she was a mukaseit? So let's take a look. Did she have a better claim? So according to Rabbi Eliezer, that says when he says, I thought you were a virgin and it turns out you had sex, you get 0. And she says, no, I should have told you, I didn't tell you, but I was a mukaseit. But since obviously there was a certain amount of misunderstanding, you get 100. Okay, remember that was one way of framing it, between 100 and 0. So then she has a migo because she could have made a claim that would have entitled her to 200. Okay, so migo di by amra mukaseitzani tachtayach. She could have said, I had an injury after the kiddushin, not before the kiddushin, and that would have entitled her to 200. The Islam atayim, and she could have said, I am entitled to 200. Yes, I wasn't a virgin on wedding night because I had an injury after the kiddushin. The Kamer Meikara, and then she said, actually, I had this injury before the Kiddushin. The Leisei Lamana, and therefore she's conceding that she only gets 100. Mehem, that's a migo. She could have made a claim that would have entitled her to 200, and she made a claim of 100. Ella, so that, according to that, there was a migo she could have made. El Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar bin Masai Mumane, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, that says, if he assumed that she was a psula, and it turned out she was a mukas 8, she gets 200. So she's claiming 200, and if it turned out she was a ba'ula, she gets 100. So their debate is between 200 and 100. So her claim that she was a mukas 8 from before the wedding, that's the strongest claim she can make. So my migo, there's no migo. So far, it's possible there was a migo in 2 of those cases, depending on how you set up the scenario. If could have been that she went into private and she conceded she had sex and she didn't have to concede, that was a migo. It's possible she's only asking a claim for 100 because of mukas 8, and she could have said a mukas 8 tachtayach and could have been a claim for 200. So it's possible two of those cases are amigo, but it's possible that based on how you interpret those cases, neither of them have amigo. But it's finally going to be the last or the first of the Mishnayos that everybody concedes has amigo.
So amigo because she's making the best claim she could.
Because she's making the best claim. Exactly. So Ella, it's the first of those Mishnayot that everybody concedes has amigo. What is it? So no, she wasn't a virgin. She says, I was raped after the marriage. No, you had sex before the marriage. The migo, now that case, clearly she has a migo, because if she's saying she was raped after the marriage, after the kiddush, and she's saying she's puzzled to a kohen, and she could have made a lot of other claims. She could have said mukaseit. She could have said it was, so therefore, Ella, she could have said I was a mukaseit afterwards, which would have been after the kiddush, which would have entitled to 200, and would not have invalidated her for a kohen. The local pasal nafshi mikuna would not have invalidated her from a kohen. The karen and nasi, and she said she was raped. The kapasal nafshi mikuna, and she's invalidating herself. So clearly, there, certainly everybody would concede, if not in 3 out of the 4 cases, at least 1 of the 4 cases, she has amigo. She could have made a better claim. And Rabbi Yoshua is still saying, I don't care, I'm not impressed. Okay? And therefore Rabbi Gamliel says she's believed. Now, that's the question about Rabbi Gamliel, whether Rabbi Gamliel needs the migo or not. Because you'll remember one of the cases, right, about the case about, we know she slept with a guy, she's pregnant, and Rabbi Gamliel believes her. There's no migo in that case, right? Some of the cases the Gemara said might not be a migo. So Rabbi Gamliel believes her because of her bari, and some of the time that bari is even backed up with a migo. Okay, Rashi also adds that another reason, right? Remember that was that whole question: is Rabbi Gamliel just because of bari, or does he need something else? So if he needs something else, Rashi points out even in times he doesn't have a migo, you know what he has in all those times? A chazaka. A chazaka that she's a kosher, that she didn't have, that she didn't do something forbidden of this woman, that she didn't sleep with a guy that's forbidden to her cheskas haguf. So Rabbi Gamliel's got her bari plus something else, plus amigo, maybe plus her chazaka, cheskas haguf. That's what Rabbi Gamliel's got. That's why he's going to believe her.
The bari here?
That she's saying, she's saying, I know why I'm not a virgin. He's just guessing. She's making a definite claim. Okay, bari and shem are about the claims, not about the objective reality. Okay, so she's got her bari plus her migo. That's why Rabbi Gamliel believes her. So she's got her bari, she's got her migo, he believes her. So therefore, way back in the first paragraph, Rabbi Gamliel is saying she's a bari, and she's got a migo, I'm going to believe her. And Rabbi Yoshua, think about the power of Rabbi Yoshua's statement. He's saying, even though the guy's a shema, and even though she's got a migo, I'm not going to believe her. A bari against a shema, even a bari plus a migo against a shema, I'm not going to believe her. So Rabbi Yoshua is not impressed with migo. And then comes along this parak, the Karma Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Gamliel, the high migo, the hacha, the migo here, when he says this field was never, this field that I'm on, it once was your father's, okay? In this, because I could have shut up, behind migo, the hacha, modina lecha, that I'll concede. Bahu migo, the hasa, plagina lech, and the migo back there, that's when I disagree, but I'll agree here. So this was a nice way of reviewing the earlier debate, reminding us that Rabbi Gamliel has a bari and a shema plus a migo, and that Rabbi Yoshua even rejects the migo, even in the case where the guy's only on a shema. So now we want to understand what makes this case stronger. Nichti says, Gemara, 1 minute, let's take a look. High migo, high migo. That was a migo over there. She could have made a better claim. Here was a migo. He didn't have to admit that the field originally belonged to the other guy. Maishna high migo. Why is this case of Pesha Asar stronger than the migo over there, which she could have made a better claim? So the Gemara says, Hacha ain't shor shachat lefanecha. Hasam harei shor shachat lefanecha. Here, there's no slaughtered ox in front of you. There's a slaughtered ox in front of you. Okay, so besides, of course, the imagery about the slaughtered ox and the blood running from the ox and the basulim and all of that cases, once again, a very bloody type of an imagery. What does this metaphor mean? So Rashi says, the debate of Rashi and Tosfos is very important. How do you read Rabbi Yoshua? Rashi says here, nobody came to this guy. Everybody, Reuven comes to Shimon and says, by the way, this field I've been on used to belong to your father. Shimon never approached Reuven. Shimon never said, give me back that field, that's my field or anything. Shimon was clueless. So there was no taina, right? There was nobody was litigating, nobody was suing him. So in that case, nobody is pushing me against the wall and demanding a response. And I just come forward and concede something. Of course, I believe I didn't have to say anything. I could have just gone on my daily business. So, migo di by shatik is the way some achronim say it, which is like I could have just been completely silent. So when I am offering the information, of course I believe, right? Why else would I? Like, why shouldn't I be believed? I could have just shut up. I could have said absolutely nothing. That's the way Rashi explains it. I don't know. Okay, so Tosfos doesn't agree. Tosfos says no. This case, the guy is coming and saying, "Give me back that field. That field was my father's. You stole it from me." And he says, "Yes, I concede it was your father's, but I bought it from him." Okay, so that's a good question. How is it different? In both cases, the guy's being like, charged with, not charged, whatever, but sued. He's being, there's a taina against him. The difference is, in one case, there's evidence that needs to be answered for. In another case, there's no evidence that needs to be answered for. In one case, there's the fact that you weren't a virgin, and that's not debated. Whatever it was, there was no blood on the sheets. For whatever reason, that was not debated. That was seen as that was concrete evidence. Okay, so now you've got some explaining to do. If you've got some explaining to do, the fact that I could have said a better claim, already like I'm on the defensive, I'm in a weaker position. As Rashi said, even if I've got a migo, maybe I know how to work the system. But in another case, there's no evidence. I could say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about with your fathers. I never saw you before in your life. I never saw your father before in your life, right? I don't have anything that needs to be explained. So while I need to answer your claim, the answer could have been what's called as the acronym, lihadam. Lo hayidvar me'olam. Like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. So when I could have said that, so I don't have to explain any evidence, I could have said you're making it all up. Then when I make a claim, the fact that I could have said that you're making it all up, that's a better migo. That I could have just said, but if I have to explain the evidence, one explanation as opposed to another explanation, that he would not hold of the migo. And Tosfos says that's the image of shor shachot lefanecha. If you have a dead cow, there's no way you could say the cow is alive. Okay, it's sort of like the reverse of the Monty Python, right? There was the dead parrot skit, but then the I'm not dead yet skit. Anyway, okay, so yes, it's alive. Of course it's not alive. You have to explain, how did it die? Maybe you'll come up with some reasonable explanation, but there's a dead cow here. You got to explain it. In the other, there's no way you could say it's alive. In the other case, you could say there's a living cow walking around somewhere. What do I know? There's nothing. There's no evidence that has to be controverted or that has to be explained. So that's a big debate of Rashi Tosfos whether Rabbi Yoshua only has his case when he's not being attacked, or he'll admit that the guy is believed even when he's being attacked. If his alternative if he had the opportunity to say you're making it all up. Yes.
In the Sefer, when there's Adam, then he's not believed. That's because of the same principle.
What do you mean about Adam that she went to?
In the Mishnah, by the field.
Oh, right, because then then it's shor shachut. Then there's actually evidence. We know it was the father's. You have to explain how it got into your hands. Okay, so now what we have is that Rabbi Gamliel concedes a case of bari and bari. He only had the guy win because the woman because he had a bari, maybe plus a migo, plus a chazaka, whatever. But if it's like a bari and a bari, even though her bari is a little bit stronger because of the row, but if it's a bari and bari, Rabbi Gamliel concedes that she doesn't win. And Rabbi Yoshua concedes that a person with a Pesha Asar does win as opposed to a migo. And what's the Pesha Asar? The Pesha Asar is either that the guy wasn't even making any claim against him, or the guy was making a claim, but there was no evidence that needed to be answered for. Okay.
The shor shachut in the case of the woman is the Ela Batuli. That's the shor shachut.
Right. And for some reason, she could not say you're making it all up. Again, maybe it was the case with the sheets. Okay, that's interesting. We went through the whole parak, and in all those Mishnayot and all the he said, she said, she never said, you're making it all up. Actually, we had some Breitas that had. Remember, there was a Breita that they came to Rabbi, and she said, actually, Betula Ani or Betula Hayiti, and then they checked the sheet, and they did some of their various things. In the Breitas, we had some scenarios where she actually said, no, actually, I was a virgin. But in the Mishnah, somehow that's taken for granted that she wasn't a virgin, and the only question is, how do you explain that? Okay, so maybe it was the case where somehow they had the sheets, and the sheets made it clear, and there was no type of a way to have said you're making it all up. Okay, but if you could say you're making it all up, then obviously the story could be very different. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. V'kivan derov noshim besulos nisos. 1 minute, the Gemara says. If it's really true that the majority of women get married, it's a first marriage. Why not go by the majority? Okay, this was what Michael was asking before. Now, if you take a look at this tiny little Tosfos, Kileka Edi Mahave, Tosfos says, L'Rav Parich to Islay Hochen b'Monach HaRov. Okay, there's a big debate of Rav and Shmuel whether rov is a good enough basis to take money out of the person that's in possession of it. Okay, normally you say Hamotzi Mechaber Lav Ryan, it requires a higher standard. But there is a position of Rav that sometimes you would go by rov. It's a question whether Rav would say it in a case like this. But anyway, that's what the Gemara wants to know. If it's really true that most women get married, and why not believe her, or maybe even at least according to Rabbi Leo, why not have it back her up and why not have her win? Okay, so the Gemara says Amar Ravina. It's true. Most women do have their marriage is a first marriage. And the smaller percentage, they're widows or divorcees. But there's something that counteracts the presumption that it was a first marriage. Because anytime it's a first marriage, there's a lot of publicity about it. I mean, there's a better word than publicity. There's a lot of knowledge about it, a lot of awareness about it, right? A first wedding, you get the whole engraved invitation, you invite 300 people. So there's more awareness of the first wedding. This one, if we can't find any witnesses, right, so therefore nobody remembers and nobody knows about it, that undermines the likelihood that it was a wedding. There was a likelihood it wasn't by pure percentages. But if it had a first wedding, but had it been a first wedding, we would have most likely have found people that would have remembered. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Depends where you are. So let's say they moved to Medina Sayyam.
That's true.
Be able to say that.
That's true. You could have some scenarios. Okay, so the Gemara says 1 minute. So that's why we're back in a balanced situation. 1 minute. If every time there's a first wedding, there's always like a wide awareness of it. So I don't get it. So
this is a weaker than the call. They could lie.
Right. If there was no call, apparently it means that if there was no call, so apparently even if 1 minute, right? Even if, right, it's a funny idea because how do we measure the call? Even if the witnesses came, right, why aren't we more aware? I mean, I misstated it before. It's not just if there's a call, then there should be witnesses. No. If there was a call, we should be aware of it, right? How is it that this guy, of course, how do we remember from 20 years ago? I've been always saying 20 years, but it could be 2 years, it could be 1 year. So how could it be that this has come to the court and we don't remember that it was a first wedding? So that counteracts the likelihood that it's a first wedding. So the Gemara says, okay, but if that's true, then even if witnesses come, say the fact that there's no awareness of this should even counteract the witnesses. Really? So what? I know. It's very funny. Like, how do you measure coal in any way? And how, anyway.
This is the gold standard.
I understand. So the Gemara says, Ella, the problem is that it says kol hani association of kol. But the problem I think that we have is that it might be that there always was a call, but that doesn't mean that the call is always remembered and persists. And how do you know? And whose memory do you go by if they're not testifying to it? If, it's a funny issue. Anyway, let's see what the Gemara says.
With real estate also, you could say the same thing, right? 20 years later, who remembers?
Exactly.
But that's just the way. That's just become a rule.
A
call is a call.
What do you mean by real estate? Who remembers? Where do you go by call by real estate?
Well, it's the same thing, but
Chazaka, yeah, but that's evidence of being on the land. That's not memory of like. Anyway, so the Gemara says like this. So it's a funny idea. The assumption that call would still persist, and that how we would be able to know we had the call, who's remembering the call without being a witness to the event. Anyway, Elam Ravina Rov Hanisas Besulos Yesh Call. Fine. Most of the time there'll be a call. Maybe a call means that the call will persist. Okay. We're not saying all the time. All right. So fine. You have a rove that it was a first wedding, but counteracting the rove is if there really had been a first wedding, we probably still would have remembered it. Not 100%. If witnesses come, we'll go by the witnesses. But so probably we would have remembered it had it been a first wedding. Since we don't remember it, that balances the likelihood that it was a first wedding.
So basically, we don't need a witness. We can say, so the husband is saying that, okay, you were not up to the one who married you. And some guy says, yeah, you know what? But I remember reading about it in the New York Times. I don't have the New York Times in front of me, and
no.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, so that's the question. Who measures the call? No, because then that's just like an aid echad, that it's an aid mi pi aid. right? A kol means that there's some general awareness of it. Again, I don't know how we're supposed to have measured that.
So specifically to say that I saw Behinuma, her saw her going up Behinuma. That's
yes, that's direct evidence. I mean, it's not direct evidence about her personal physical status, but it's direct evidence about something concretely that happened during the wedding. Yes.
They should have hired a photographer.
Not a photographer. He would have kept the negatives. There you go. All right. There you go. Perfect. Anyway, all right, whatever. So the Gemara basically says that according to Rabbi Gamliel, why not use the rove? And it says, yeah, but the rove is counterbalanced by the fact that there's not a strong memory about this situation. Okay, and that leaves open the possibility that she's not considered to be, that witnesses obviously could prove her case, but it does not give her a presumption of being correct.
This is only the absence of the ketubah.
Yeah, now, and that's what the Gemara is going to actually get to right now. Okay, now if there are witnesses that she went out with the whole bedecked and in this whole a wedding chariot and whatever, so then that's evidence it was a first wedding. So the Gemara says, okay, 1 minute, maybe she's hiding the ksufa. She'll use her witnesses that there was a first wedding. She'll collect her ksuva, and then she'll go to another court in another city or whatever it'll be. They'll move or whatever the case might be, and then she'll extract her ksuva. What's protecting the husband's interests once he pays this if there's no written ksuva?
He doesn't get a receipt or something?
So give him a receipt. So let's take a look. So the Gemara says, the Gavyaba. Zosameres Kosrim Shofar. This tells you write a receipt. Now, what's the big chiddush? So the big chiddush is why should the guy who paid out the money have the responsibility to hold on to his receipts? Okay, if I basically, borrowed money from you and then I paid it off and my debt is done, what, I have to hold on to that receipt for forever because you might come ahead and take out a star against me? So there's one opinion that says, yes. That's the way the system works. If the guy's got a star and he can give it back, tear it up. But if not, you hold on to the receipt and you got to hold on to it. But another opinion in a Gemara, not here, but in, elsewhere says that that's not fair. It's not fair to demand that I hold on to the receipt. So therefore, what we'll say is, if you have the star to give back the star and we'll tear it up. And if you don't have a star to give back, you can't collect your debt. You can't collect your debt without a star. The fact that you might still be holding onto that star somewhere and waiting for the guy to lose his receipt, that's not tolerable. So we won't have a system of receipts. And we'll say if you don't have a star to produce, then the guy doesn't have to pay back his debt, even if you can prove he borrowed the money. Okay, so that's a different way of running a system, right? Each one comes with a cost. One comes to a cost with the loaner, and one comes with a cost to the creditor. Okay, so do you demand that the person holds on to receipts, or at least say that will be there are times when that will be necessary? Do you say no? You've got to hold on to your star, and if you lost your star, you lose it. Okay, even if you can prove that the guy borrowed the money. So the Gemara says, look, you see that this shows that we do have a system of writing receipts because we let her collect without her ksuva. Okay, so that's pretty good evidence. So the Gemara says, Rav Papa Amar, b'makom shein koshin ksuva skinan. No, we're talking about a case where they don't write the starot. So meaning, even if I would concede that in general, when a document is written, all the responsibility falls on the person who has the document. And if he loses his star, he cannot collect. If there's a place where there are no shtarot written, where all the debts are done, let's say, with witnesses, but not with documents, okay? Or here, in a case where they never wrote out a ksuva, it was just the standard obligation based on what the rabbi said, we never wrote out a document. In that case, of course, you've got to have a system of receipts because there's no alternative. Okay, so our debate is in scenarios where the practice of the place is to have documents of debt or documents of ksuva and whatever. There we could say no receipt, your responsibility to hold on to the to produce the document. But if it's not a place where they write those documents, then clearly there's going to be a system of receipts.
You don't to protect the women and all that.
That's a good question. Okay, we'll see that later. That's a position of Rabbi Meir.
Then it's a place where they didn't write the ketubah. What happens?
Produce witnesses, whether it was a first wedding or not, and collect the appropriate amount.
So that it's much more likely than for him to be able to make claims. That's the problem.
What?
I mean, then that disadvantages her.
Of course, it disadvantages her, right? Yeah. So for whatever.
Yeah, but my question was because I thought they said.
Okay, but that's a machlokas. That's a machlokas about whether we say that. Okay, so anyway, but right, obviously you would not want it would be you would be in a severe disadvantage to be in a place where
change the wedding.
where you did not have any paper documents. Okay, anyway, so that's his answer. And therefore, we're going to go ahead and obviously allow for receipts to be written in that scenario. Okay, some have this debate of Rav Papa and Rabbi Avo, not on the Mishnah, but on the Breita. Here's what the Breita said. It's almost exactly the case of our Mishnah, but it's a little bit more explicit. Okay, Ibda Ksuvasa, if she lost her Ksuva, or just might be ibdam, or might be like destroyed it. Okay, hitamina ksuvata, or if she hid it, secreted it away, or nisrafa ksuvasa, or it got destroyed, burnt. Then that. So in all those cases, she has no ksuva to produce. How do you prove whether it's a first wedding or not? So here are the types of testimony that would prove that it was a first wedding. First of all, did they have the wedding dances? Okay, it's very interesting. We get a little insight into the practices they had at the wedding. So if they had, did they do shtick at the wedding, right? Did they have a whole big dancing in front of the kala? Guess what tomorrow's daf is going to be? So anyway, did they do shtick? Right? That would be a proof that they only do that at first wedding. Okay, right. Did they pass in front of her a goblet of good well wishes? We'll see what that is. Oh, Mappa Shel Basulin. You gotta love that one. They did a whole dance with her with a bed sheet, which is the bed sheet they were going to use that night to show whether or not she was a virgin. Man, that was a different society at that time. Okay, so those would be evidence that it was a first wedding. If she has evidence that they did any one of these things, in that case is ksuvasa matayim. She gets 200. So that was, first of all, more graphic in terms of what types of things that they might have done. But in terms of the scenario, it says explicitly she destroyed, or she hid, or it was burnt. Okay, so clearly we started with a ksuva, and she can still collect. So it's a place where they write a ksuva, and she can still collect. So it shows you that you would write a receipt, even in a place where you normally write out documents. So the Gemara says, why aren't we afraid? Maybe she'll take out witnesses in this basin and collect, and then she'll take out the ksuva in another basin and collect. But this tells you that you write a receipt, and that the husband will hold on to the receipt, even though it's a place where you write ksuvas. And it's a place where they don't write out ksuvas, and therefore we allow a system of receipts. But in general, we would not. So the Gemara says, how could you say that? It says that she lost or whatever, destroyed her ksuva. Clearly there was a ksuva. Or it says it got burnt, or it says it whatever. So the Gemara says, the kasav la'iyu. Okay, it's a place where they normally don't write ksuvas. Yeah, so in this type of place, we have a system of receipts, and it just so happened that he wrote her the ksuva. Okay, it doesn't mean it's usher to write a ksuva. He did it. But because it's a place that doesn't, this place has receipts. In a place that generally does, no receipts. You got to hold on to your document. In a place that generally doesn't, there are receipts. And it just so happened that he actually, in this place that doesn't, and there are receipts, he happened to write her a ksuva. The cost of la'iyu. I'm sorry, so I don't get it. But if it is a case where there actually was a written ksuva, and she maybe is, and we don't know that it's destroyed, she said it's lost, or we even said that maybe she even hid it away, how do we go ahead and deal with this situation? Maybe she's going to go ahead and recollect, okay? Because if you're going to say that there's no receipts that are done, now of course the answer is a place
that isn't writing Ketuvot, so
right.
Therefore he's not going to have a receipt. So, but she might have. We're saying we should wear for the case that he might have written.
Yeah, I'm not exactly getting this. Hold on 1 second. Let me just check Rashi 1 minute. Yeah, I'm not exactly getting it. Since it's a makom she'ein kosvin ksuv she'ein kosvin. Oh, yeah. No, I think what we're assuming is no. Because I jumped ahead. Because I told you no. That's right. No.
That's where they don't write. There's always a way to fraud. There's always a way.
One minute. Shh.
He in this case would happen.
Then the answer is because in this case he did
He
write
happened to write one.
Okay, so I actually jumped ahead. I've been making a mistake. I told you what the Gemara is going to say later. It's a problem by doing the whole daf, and I've incorporated it earlier. The Gemara is later going to say that, in a place where they don't write or whatever, and you have no choice because there's no star, there would be receipts. But right now, the Gemara isn't assuming that. Right now, the Gemara is assuming that if there's nothing written, you're not afraid that she's going to produce a ksuva in another basin. Now, I don't understand why she can't go ahead and take the same edim and produce, or different set of edim. There are a lot of people at the wedding. Take one set of edim to one basin, one set of edim to another basin. For some reason, that we're not concerned about. We're only concerned about edim in one basin and a ksuva in the next basin, okay? That somehow that will be treated as completely different. Nobody will know about it and whatnot. So therefore, until now, when we've been answering the one who says that we don't write receipts, so he says, so what's the explanation about why all this works? Well, all this works because we're not afraid that there's any ksuva, no ksuva circulating around. There's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, I jumped ahead by saying that in such a place you would use receipts. Forget that for now. Basically, what we're saying now is one says we do write receipts, and the other says we don't write receipts, but there's no ksuva to be afraid of. No ksuva was written. So the Gemara says, if no ksuva was written, how could you say no ksuva was written? It says the ksuva was lost. Clearly there was a ksuva, so he wrote it. So, but if he wrote it, we're back to square one. If he wrote it and there's a ksuva, let's be afraid that he'll use the ksuva in another scenario, since you say we don't use receipts. Okay, so the Gemara says, so mafkala v'gavyaba. Since you are saying that, since you Rav Papa are saying that we don't write receipts. And they're happy, even if it's a generally place that there's no ksuva, but here there was a ksuva, so why aren't we afraid that she's going to use it to collect from again? No, my ivda ba'ur. No, it means that we know it was destroyed. It was like it got burnt up. So therefore, there's no fear that she's going to come and use it again. Ihachi says the Gemara, if that's true, Hainu Nisrafa, we have that as another case. It got burnt. The first case clearly is we don't know that it got destroyed. It says that she secreted it, hid it. So clearly we don't know that it's destroyed. It might be around. So if there's no receipts, how can we allow this case? Maybe she's going to extract her ksuva later. So the Gemara says, V'su Ivda Lamali, and then why would you need the case of Ivda? Okay, fine. Anytime she says it's lost, here's the way you read the Mishnah. She says it's lost. Saying it's lost, we suspect that you're hiding it. So, and therefore, you can't collect. Okay? We don't give her. Until the witnesses say it was burnt. So here's how he reads the Mishnah, the Breita. The Breita said, Ivda hitmina nisrafa. So it sounded like in all three of those cases, she just has to produce Adam and she's believed. But no, this is how Rav Papa is reading it. If he says it was lost, we believe Ivda, we say hitmina. We say you're hiding it, and we're afraid you're going to use it somewhere else. And therefore, we're not going to let you collect. Only if it's nisrafa, then we'll let you collect. Then we know that it's not around and you're going to come and use it again. So right now what we're saying is, the easier read about all of this is, of course we let her collect and we just tell the guy, hold on to your receipt. But if you're of the position, I don't like receipts, I reject receipts, if there's no star to produce, I'm not going to let you collect. How do you explain these cases? Either there was no ksuva ever, so there's nothing to worry about, number one, or it's a place to local ksuva, or there was a ksuva, but we have absolute evidence that it's been destroyed. Okay, but if there's ever the possibility that there's a written ksuva around, I'm not going to let you collect without the ksuva. That's what Rav Papa would say.
So he reads the Breita as a dialogue.
Exactly.
She says Ibda, and they say to her,
Hitmina, something like that. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. Okay, Mandamasni, where are we? Mandamasni la Brisa koshkena masni. And if you're prepared to reread the Breita that says that it was lost, to say that actually it means that that we don't believe her and that we'll only do it when the ksuva is destroyed, you would certainly say the Mishnah. The Mishnah is vaguer. But if you just explain that the Mishnah is a case where there is no ksuva, you would not hold your position by the Breita. The Breita, the simple read of the Breita is much more explicit that even though there was a ksuva, you will let her collect. Right, the simple read of the bright is not that you have evidence that the ksuva was destroyed. Okay, so basically the Mishnah is vague. The bright is pretty clear that even though you know that there was a ksuva and we can't find it, she's allowed to collect with witnesses. So it really takes a lot for Rav Papa to say, even with that bright, I'm going to say that's not true. Once there was a ksuva, I will not let her collect. The only time I will, because I don't believe in receipts, and the only time I'm going to let her collect is if she can prove either there was never a ksuva to begin with, or she can prove that the ksuva has been destroyed. Okay, so that's a big chiddush to force that into the Breita. But that would be what Rav Papa would say. Now we're going to get to what I jumped ahead to say, so let's just read this. V'yesh edim, if there are witnesses, right, that it was a first wedding, she can collect. So the Gemara says, V'lema dilma mafka ede hinume b'hai basin v'gavia v'ada mafka ede hinume b'beidin achrina v'gavia. So finally, the Gemara is getting around to saying, so even with witnesses, let's afraid that she's going to use witnesses in two different batei din. And even if the witnesses won't agree, there were a lot of wedding guests. So use one set in one basin, one set in another basin. So if you have a shovar, again, if you believe that there's a receipt, you're covered. But if you're in the position that we never write receipts, what do you do with this? So the Gemara says no. If there's no alternative, you certainly write a shovar, which means, this is what I had jumped ahead to before. If there's no ksuva around, okay, and you're going to go, if the place that ain't kosering ksuva, there was no ksuva to begin with, okay, so in that type of a scenario where there's no ksuva to begin with, of course you're going to do a shovar. What alternative do you have? You don't want the person to go ahead and to be able to collect twice. Maybe if there's a concern that there's different types of edim that you could use one set of one and one set of the other. So you have no choice, you'll write a shofar. But when you started with a ksuva, then we're not going to have any rachmanas. If we start with a document, you've got to hold on to that document. And if you've lost it, that's your tough luck. And the only thing that we'll consider is maybe if the document was like destroyed in front of our eyes. But other than that, it's your tough luck. We will refuse to write a receipt. That's when you start with the document. But when you didn't start with a document, or when, let's say, the document was destroyed in front of us, so we know there's no document around, then there's no alternative. Then we will write a shovar, at least to protect from collecting twice, even without a document.
So
yes.
shovar is only written in a place where they don't write ksuba.
According,
where you write ksuba, she'd have to hand it over.
And without the without the document, you're stuck. That's Rav Papa. Okay, Rav Papa completely rejects the idea of shovas. He has to allow for it in some cases where there's nothing to be done. Okay, but basically, if you started with a document, you can't prove it was destroyed, we will refuse to write it.
Is that what they did? The ketuvah was paid out. They cut it, or they.
Yeah. So now let's just do a little bit here. We'll end today's daf with some of the practices that show that it was a first wedding. This will be fun. Nice, softer ending to the daf or whatever. The goblet of well wishes. My kos shabasara, Amar of Adabar Ava, kos yayin shel truma ma'avin lefaneha, a cup filled with truma wine. She's a basula. She never had sex before, so we don't have to worry about the fact that if she's marrying a Kohen, of course, who says it was a Kohen's marriage? But anyway, we don't have to be worrying about the fact that she might have had sex.
Someone may drink this.
I understand. She might have had sex with a man that would have made her puzzle to the Kohen. So notice again, by the way, the cup filled with wine, again, the very red liquid blood, all this imagery. Okay, fine. Anyway, it's all about virgin. It's all about her being a virgin. So anyway, Maskiv Laura Papa asked, Atu Amanami Lo Achla Truma? I don't get it. Just because a woman, it's not a first wedding, doesn't mean that she can't, and she's married a Kohen, doesn't mean she can't eat a truma. She could be she can't eat truma. She could be an almana. That's not about her being a virgin. It's not like a Kohen gadol. She has to be a virgin. So anyway, El Amar Papa Zu Reshit Ketruma. No, here was the symbolism. Truma is first. Reshit Arisotechem. Reshit Tarimi Truma. It's the first thing that you separate off. So this is Truma. Fine, whatever. This is Truma. This is the first, and this is going to be the first time that she's going to have sex. All right. So Zu Reshit Ketruma. Zu Reshit Ketruma Reshit. Okay, like Truma's a Reshit. Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Chavis shel yayin ma'avin lefaneha, a barrel of wine. Remember before we had the barrel of wine with the rag that was, first of all, they sat on the barrel of wine, and then the rag in the hole that you were squeezing in the hole, then the whatever. Okay, fine. It's all connected. So, Amar Rav Adabar Ava, in case you missed the significance, says Rav Adabar Ava, Basula ma'avin lefaneha situma. A basula, you carry a sealed cask of wine. Be'ula ma'avin lefaneha ptucha.
Hey,
oh my God. let's assume it means a second wedding, I guess. Not that you happen to be, and now it's a first wedding, but you're announcing to everybody whether she's had sex before. Anyway, but if it's a second wedding, it's an open barrel of wine. Oh my God. Amai, says the Gemara, Ne'avir Kame Basula. Why don't we just have the barrel of wine for the Basula? The Kame Ba'ula Lo Ne'avir Klal, and not have anything for a Ba'ula? No. Maybe sometimes she'll have seized the husband. They'll get a divorce. She'll have seized the husband's property, so it'll be the motzi mechaver on him. She'll have taken possession of the property, so she'll have the presumption. He'll have to prove that it wasn't the first wedding because she's now holding on to the money. And v'amran, she'll say ana besula hava. You know what? Even though you can bring witnesses that said that there was no barrel of wine, it doesn't matter. I was a first wedding. The Hadlo Avru Kamai, why didn't they have the barrel of wine? They were so drunk or whatever, they never got around to it. So therefore, we don't want to have the absence of evidence. We want actually there to be concrete evidence either way. So if they have the closed barrel, it's concrete evidence she was a virgin, and an open barrel, it's concrete evidence that she was not. Because if we just have the lack of the wine, she could always explain why they never got around to doing the whole fun wine practice. Okay, so we are getting a nice, interesting insight into some of the wedding practices, and we will continue with this.
So, getting back to meetings, that's an interesting question. So let's say he says,